honored to be here, and I really want to congratulate Sister Pat. I'm really in awe of all you do. And I'm so glad to get to talk about keeping open the door of faith. And I have to say, as just echoing what Sister Pat said, it does seem that since we got our pre-Easter surprise of Pope Francis, that door has been kicked open a little further, I think. And I've been hearing so many people who maybe have not been practicing for a while saying that they themselves are a little surprised by, the flutters of excitement that they've been feeling. And I really think that all comes back to the thing that he's been emphasizing, being true to the spirit of St. Francis, being true to Christ himself, being true to the work that Sister Pat does, which is really just standing with the poor, standing and serving the poor. And for all that's new in this new pontificate with the first Jesuit, the first Latin American Pope, I think what touches people the most is what's oldest and what's so basic, which is really getting back to this focus on what could not be more central to the practice of our faith, which is our responsibility to the least among us. And some of the earliest signs out of this pontificate, the simpler dress, the refusing, at least so far, to move into the apostolic palace. We can say that that's just symbolic, that that's just a matter of style, but it's also true that it's what St. Francis was talking about when he said, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. And, both the symbolism and the reality of doing something like washing and kissing the feet of these young convicts, including 2 women on Holy Thursday, I thought was so moving. We hope it might mean that there could be an expanded role for women under this new pontiff. He also emphasized recently that emphasized our role as mothers in passing on the faith. And as important as that is, I hope he did not mean to suggest that our role should be limited to that. I don't know that anyone thinks ordination for women is around the corner, but I do think that there is a general consensus that there's no reason things can't be opened up in other ways, both at the Vatican and on the parish level, whereas we know women do a lot of the work already. Maybe through a female diaconate, and I've been so surprised by how many very conservative Catholic thinkers have said to me, there's no theological reason that women can't be cardinals, cardinal electors. There's really, that would take no more of a tweak of canon law than they did to change the timing of the conclave. So I'm going to go with feeling that, this is a time of great possibility. It's also true, though, that the Church has not always made it easy to keep that door of faith open. I don't think that comes as a shock to anyone here. Because these have been some pretty hard years, especially as a result of the clerical abuse scandals that the Pope also mentioned today, again with a positive message that I hope becomes concrete. He said that bishops should act decisively on abuse, but he also said that, or suggested that he wanted to continue in the vein of Benedict. And while I think it's true that Benedict did not always get his due in trying to address the abuse, I don't even think Benedict himself would say that he had succeeded. One thing, though, that was so striking in this conclave, as opposed to the one 8 years ago, is that 8 years ago, when anyone spoke about the need for reform, many of the cardinals pushed back against that and took that as, undue criticism. At this conclave, you heard cardinals themselves speaking not only about the need for reform, but that reform was required. at least in the administrative and on the financial side. So that's a major shift. And I really do believe that if Francis does not definitively address the abuse on the level of the bishops, it will be very hard for him to accomplish a lot of the other things that he might be able to otherwise. And administratively, he really does, obviously, I think, have to make the curia work better. Now, can he get a handle on the palace intrigue if he's not inside the palace? I think he can if he has a very strong team in place, especially as Secretary of State. And I read a very interesting report today from John Allen in National Catholic Reporter based on last week's reporting in Argentina. He was saying, you know, this Pope so dislikes having an entourage, that's a good thing, that he may want to be his own Secretary of State. He may want to be his own Prime Minister. And John I think, was seeming to say that this might be a good thing, but I don't know that I can agree with him on that. I think that he's going to need a very strong team in place to take care of to address the problems administratively. And I don't think that could or even should be the Pope's own focus. The most important thing, though, that I really hope most from the Holy Father and the other church leaders is something that my friend Tom Roberts, I'm sure a lot of you know, said to me recently. He said, I just hope they tell us the truth. Whatever the problems are, whatever the challenges we'll face, whatever's coming, just tell us the truth. You know, we want to be on board. Here we are. You feel so much excitement in this new moment. But transparency really could not be more important.